Here's the truth. Nobody tells men. Your goodnight text is either the final nail in the coffin or the spark that puts you in her head all night. There's no middle ground. Most men send the same basic predictable messages that do nothing for a woman emotionally, but women don't fall for routine. They fall for fascination. So today I'm going to show you 6 goodnight messages crafted specifically to trigger the emotions that build attraction, intrigue, warmth, imagination, and anticipation. These aren't cheesy lines. They're subtle psychological cues that stay with her long after she puts her phone down. If you want to stop blending in and start leaving an imprint, don't skip this. Most men think a good night text is a sweet gesture, but for women, it's usually the moment their mind shifts into a different world. When a woman lies down at night, she enters a mental space where everything becomes quieter, more vivid, more internal. Her imagination sharpens, her emotions turn up, and her thoughts start drifting into stories. Stories that either include you or don't. And that's the brutal truth most men never confront. Good night feels like a closing line to you, but for her, it could be the opening scene of something far more interesting. The problem is that most men send messages that feel safe, predictable, and utterly forgettable. Sleep tight, good night, sweet dreams, these don't spark anything. They don't paint a picture. They don't trigger curiosity or emotion. They lack what truly matters, your energy. Without that, you're just another echo in her inbox. That's why before you use any of the 6 messages, you need to understand the rules. Never send these if you're texting from a place of weakness, when you're trying to win her back, when she's acting distant, or when you're chasing for attention. Never use them every night. Routine kills impact, and never send them hoping she'll validate you. A masculine man sends the message, sets the tone, and then gives space. He has a life. He doesn't hover over his phone waiting for a response. Once you understand these principles, every good night message becomes more than a line. It becomes a psychological tool, something that lingers, something that pulls her towards you without you lifting a finger. When you get this part right, everything else becomes easier. Number 1, if you wake up with a smile, you'll know who caused it. This is the gentlest message in the entire lineup, and that's exactly why it works so well as your first move. It doesn't try too hard, it doesn't overstep, and it doesn't scream for attention. Instead, it subtly plants a feeling, one that lingers long after she puts her phone down. This message works best in the early mid-stage, after you've had a light, enjoyable conversation or a simple meetup that left a warm tone between the two of you. It's a message that doesn't need to flex anything. It just exists with quiet confidence. Why does it work? Because it creates an emotional anchor. You're not only closing out her night, you're influencing the mood she wakes up with. It hints that her morning happiness might be connected to you without ever bragging about it. You're positioning yourself as a source of positive emotion, as someone who adds something to her internal world rather than taking energy away from it. Most men try to impress a woman in the moment. You're doing something smarter. You're extending your impact into tomorrow. On a psychological level, this message taps into reward prediction. Humans naturally anticipate whatever they associate with pleasure, warmth, or emotional uplift. When you imply that her smile the next morning might be tied to you, her brain makes that connection automatically. If she does wake up smiling, even for a completely unrelated reason, your message becomes the first mental file that opens. That's how anchors work. They turn into micro reminders of you. Now imagine her actual experience. She wakes up, stretches, maybe laughs at something she remembers, and before she even checks her phone, a thought slips in. Was that because of him? That's the exact moment you've created. Subtle, powerful, completely effortless. But here's where men mess this up. Don't add heart emojis. Don't overplay the sweetness. Don't send it too early when the connection isn't there. It'll feel forced. And never follow up the next morning asking, "So did you smile?" That instantly kills your frame. A grounded man doesn't chase confirmation. He lets the moment breathe. If she responds playfully, teasing you, keep your tone relaxed. Something simple like, "Glad to hear it," or "I'll take the credit," keeps your energy masculine and steady. The point isn't to prove anything. It's to let her feel something and leave space for her to come towards you. Number 2, good night. I hope your pillow isn't jealous that I'm not there. This is where the tone shifts from gentle to playfully intimate. Not sexual, not aggressive, just enough warmth and humor to slip into her mind and stay there. This message works beautifully in the mid stage when there's already some flirtation, a bit of teasing, or a shared joke or two. You're not forcing anything. You're simply adding a spark that most men never dare to create. The magic of this line lies in one thing: visual imagery. The moment she reads it, her brain paints a picture whether she wants to or not, her lying in bed, her pillow beside her, and the subtle implication of you possibly being there. It's innocent, but the image lands. It's intimate, but not explicit. And it works because it lets her imagination do the heavy lifting. Humor plays a huge role here too. Women relax when they laugh. When you use a line that blends charm with light mischief, you immediately feel safer, more human, more enjoyable to interact with. The jealous pillow angle is clever because it personifies something harmless, letting you imply closeness without crossing lines. You're hinting at a presence without claiming it. You're planting a thought without invading her space. From a psychological standpoint, nighttime is one of the most private environments a woman has. Her room, her bed, her body unwinding from the day. Dropping a playful image into that exact setting makes you stand out in a way no sleep-type message ever will. You're speaking the language of suggestion, not demand, but timing matters. If you send this too early before any flirt energy exists, it'll feel like a leap. That's when it becomes cringe, not clever. This message shouldn't be your attempt to regain control when things feel off. You don't use it from a place of desperation. You use it when the dynamic is already warm. Picture what happens when it lands well. She smirks at her phone, maybe takes a screenshot, and sends it to her friend with a, "Okay, this is actually cute." That's when you know you're becoming more than a contact. You're becoming a topic. And if she fires back something like, "My pillow is loyal, don't worry," you stay calm and charming. Blame your pillow. I'm innocent. No overthinking, no over-explaining, just grounded, playful confidence. Number 3, good night. I'll try not to show up in your dreams, but no promises. This is where you start tapping directly into the strongest psychological lever women possess: imagination. If the previous message played with visual humor, this one plays with mental imagery, subtle, suggestive, and effortlessly memorable. It works best in the early, mid, or solid mid stage when the connection is already warm and you've shared enough banter for this kind of playful confidence to feel natural rather than presumptuous. The beauty of this message lies in its structure. The first half sounds polite and normal. Good night. But the second half flips the script completely. I'll try not to show up in your dreams is already a seed planted gently into her subconscious. You're inserting yourself into the exact place where her thoughts get the most vivid, the most emotional, and the most unfiltered. Then you add, "but no promises," which is the real hook. It's cheeky, it's bold, it's a challenge wrapped in a smirk. It suggests that even if you try not to appear in her dreams, your presence might still slip in, confident without bragging. Psychologically, this line hits at the perfect moment, right before she falls asleep. The brain is extremely impressionable at that boundary between waking and dreaming. Whatever you mention becomes more likely to show up in her thought stream. No, you're not hypnotizing her, but you're leveraging a very real cognitive truth. The mind tends to follow the last cue it receives before shutting down. You're simply giving her a cue that feels intriguing, warm, and a little mysterious. The key is subtlety. You're not describing the dream. You're not hinting at anything physical. You're not sexualizing the moment. You're simply letting her imagination wander on its own, and that's what makes it powerful. She fills in the blanks, not you. The less you say, the more her mind does. Of course, timing matters. Use this too early and it feels like a forced flirt attempt. Use it when she's cold, distant, or barely responding, and it reads as insecurity masked as confidence. This line only works when the dynamic is already flowing. If she responds with something like "confident, huh?" you don't flinch, you smile mentally and stay grounded. Just being honest or simply realistic, short, calm, self-assured. No essays, no explanations, no backpedaling. The purpose of this message isn't to get her to dream about you. The purpose is to make her think about the possibility. And once she's thinking about it, the battle is already half won. Number 4, good night. Let me know if I make a guest appearance in your dreams. This message takes everything from the previous one, imagination, curiosity, nighttime psychology, and pushes it one step further. But it doesn't do it by being bolder or more suggestive. It does it by creating something far more strategic, a built in bridge to tomorrow. This isn't just a good night text, it's a reason for her to think of you in the morning, a natural invitation for her to reach out without feeling like she's chasing. That's why this line works best in the mid stage, especially after a day where the vibe between you two has been consistently good. What makes this message powerful is the narrative it subtly introduces. You're not simply saying, dream of me. You're positioning yourself as a potential guest appearance, a recurring character in the storyline of her subconscious. It's playful, yes, but it's also intentional. You're setting up an ongoing thread between the two of you, something that can carry into the next day without forcing a conversation. It's a psychological cliffhanger. Women naturally enjoy storytelling, sharing their feelings, their thoughts, their little moments. This message taps straight into that instinct. You're giving her a lighthearted excuse to open up the next morning with something like, no guest appearance last night, or you actually did show up. Both responses are wins. One keeps the banter going, the other deepens the dynamic. The strategic strength of this line is that it doesn't pressure her. It doesn't expect a response right away. It simply opens a door. If she wants to walk through it, she can. And when she does, it feels like her idea. That's high-level attraction, creating opportunities without trying to control outcomes. Picture the scenario. She reads your message before bed. She smiles. Maybe she rolls her eyes in that amused, you're impossible kind of way. Then morning comes, and whether she dreamed about you or not, the thought resurfaces. You've created continuity, and continuity is how you shift from being a moment in her day to being part of her mental routine. If she replies with something teasing like, no dream cameo tonight, your response stays grounded and effortless. Directors can be unreliable. I'll file a complaint. It keeps the tone playful while maintaining your masculine steadiness. Just don't make the fatal mistake of asking the next morning, so did I? That flips the frame and puts you in validation-seeking mode. A man who understands his presence doesn't chase proof of it. This message positions you not as a temporary thought, but as a character she expects to see again. Subtle, fun, and unforgettable. Number 5. Rest well, but don't smile too much tomorrow thinking about me. This is the confidence flex of the entire list, the line that separates you from every man who's still trying to play it safe. You don't ask for attention, you don't beg for it, you assume it lightly and playfully, the way a grounded man does. This message shines in the mid-late stage when chemistry is already established. When she's shown clear signs she enjoys your presence, your humor, or your energy. At this point, you're not building attraction from scratch. You're amplifying what's already there. The reason this message works so well is because it taps into a psychological phenomenon most men never take advantage of: the power of expectation. When you imply that she will be thinking about you tomorrow, you plant the idea before she even goes to sleep. Her brain starts making micro associations. What would make her smile tomorrow? And why might it be connected to you? That little spark of anticipation is what creates emotional momentum. And then comes the double effect. She laughs when she reads it because, yes, the line is bold, but it's delivered with a wink, not a puffed chest. And if she smiles the next morning for any reason at all, a good cup of coffee, a funny memory, even a random thought, your line triggers a callback in her mind. Suddenly, she's thinking of you because she smiled, even if you had nothing to do with the actual moment. That's how confident suggestion works. It's not manipulation. It's emotional influence handled with finesse. This only works, however, when your energy is congruent with the line. You must sound like a man who's not surprised she'd think of him, not a man desperately hoping it's true. If you use this when she's dry, distant, or barely giving you time of day, it reads as insecure bravado. And if you send it hoping she'll validate you the next morning with a cute message, you've already missed the point. Imagine she responds with a smirk. We'll see about that. A man with shaky confidence would jump into reassurance mode. You won't. You simply reply with something steady and calm like, we both know. Not aggressive, not cocky, just composed. That's masculine frame, the ability to stay unbothered, self-assured, and present. But the quickest way to kill the charm of this message is to ruin it with a needy follow-up. Don't ask her the next day if she thought about you. Don't fish for compliments. The power of this line lives in its subtlety, in what it suggests rather than demands. Used correctly, this message doesn't just make her think of you, it makes her feel something about you, and that's where real attraction begins. Number 6, good night. If you can't sleep, you know where to find me. This is the final message for a reason. It carries the deepest emotional weight. It's not cheeky like the pillow line, not playful like the dream cameo, and not bold like the don't smile too much message. This one rests entirely on connection, presence, and masculine calm. It's an invitation that doesn't push, a door that stays open without needing her to walk through it. And that's exactly why it belongs in the later stage, when there's already trust, warmth, and a sense that both of you share more than just surface level moments. Why does this message hit so differently? Because it blends two powerful elements, comfort and mystery. On one hand, you're letting her know you're someone she can lean on, someone who won't judge her for being restless, overwhelmed, or emotionally heavy. On the other hand, you're not positioning yourself as her emotional crutch. You're simply creating a space she's welcome to enter if she chooses to. That optional availability is what makes your presence feel strong instead of needy. Psychologically, women cherish men who can make them feel safe without smothering them. A man who isn't trying to fix her or chase her, but can hold space with ease. This line signals exactly that. It says, I'm steady, I'm here, you're not alone, and you're free to reach out without pressure. It's emotional intelligence wrapped in 8 simple words. Now picture the moment she reads it. It's late. The room is quiet. Maybe her mind is buzzing from the day. Maybe she's overthinking. Maybe she's perfectly fine. But either way, she sees your message and feels a small shift. A soft comfort she didn't ask for but appreciates. Even if she doesn't text back, the presence of your message lingers. And if she does text later with something like, I can't sleep, you don't jump into rescue mode or turn into an amateur therapist. You reply with warmth and steadiness. Something like, I'm here, what's on your mind? No pressure, no over-functioning, just grounded energy that doesn't make her problems yours to solve. The danger, of course, is misusing this line. If you send it when you're too available, too reactive, or secretly hoping she'll depend on you emotionally, it loses all power. It can't be employed to get her attention, and it can't be a last attempt to revive a dying conversation. It must come from fullness, not emptiness, because this message isn't for boys searching for validation. It's for men who understand the balance between being a warm place to land and still being someone she has to step toward. When you use it from that place, calm, collected, confident, it becomes unforgettable. You've now seen the full picture, not just 6 messages, but 6 different ways to influence how she feels, thinks, and connects with you long after the conversation ends. You understand why the typical good night gets lost in the noise, and why timing, intention, and emotional awareness matter far more than clever wording. You've learned when each message fits, how each one works psychologically, and how to avoid the mistakes that quietly kill attraction for most men without them ever realizing it. But here's the real transformation. You're no longer sending words, you're sending experiences, you're shaping the emotional tone she falls asleep with and the mood she wakes up to. You're stepping out of the category of forgettable men and into the much smaller group of men who know how to communicate with clarity, depth, and confidence. Because at the end of the day, the difference isn't in the line, it's in the frame behind the line. Most men will hear these messages and rush to copy and paste them like cheat codes. The man who wins is the one who uses them with intention, the one who understands the psychology behind them, the one who knows that masculine energy isn't loud or needy, but grounded, steady, and emotionally fluent. That man, that's who you're becoming. If you want to lock this in, drop a comment with the message you're planning to try tonight or the one you've used before without realizing why it worked. Hit like, share this with another man who needs to step out of the good night trap, and subscribe so you don't drift back into old habits. There's more to learn.